G'day. This is kind of a video on not spending money you don't have. Back about 15 years ago, I bought this stupid little television. It's 15.4 inch on the LCD. It's CFL based, so that should give you a bit of an idea, if you're into technology, how old it is. I spent about $300 on this stupid telly, and it's only come in useful once in my life. Normally, when I first bought it. The digital TV tuner in this is old enough. It doesn't support the new standards. It's not 16:9. It's actually a 16:10 panel because it's of that age. So even on digital TV days, things were slightly bigger. It's a TFT panel, which means the color shifts as you go off angle. The only redeeming factor on this, and the only reason I keep it now, apart from the fact that it's never had any value worth selling, is that apart from being a television, which I've never used, outside of the first time I tried it and went, yeah, that's pretty shit, is the inputs on it. Let's see if we can put a light on this subject. It has your spattering of old analogs, components, HDMI down here, and VGA. Now, the VGA is absolutely useless. Everything I've put in it causes double scaling and overlaying of the image, so it doesn't actually factor it in properly, and it's ghosted, it's useless. The HDMI side of it is okay-ish. I'll show you in a second. It does have a VESA mount, and I did mount this EPC I scored for nothing a few years ago, which is also about as useless as the television for most things. It's on there because, well, there's nowhere else to put it. But what's absolutely useless about this, now I've lost the remote years ago. It's around somewhere, maybe buried under something. The batteries are probably rusted the arse out of it. Who knows? But even with a HDMI signal, there's no way of centering this image. So, it's currently being fed by this tiny PC here. This is about the only time I've found a use for it. Is either as a secondary to watch what's going on display, or in this case, because it's light enough I can carry it upstairs. It runs off a 1.2 amp power supply at 12 volt. But otherwise it's freaking useless. It was overpriced for what it was. I saw it on the shelf when I saw it. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. A TV I could run at 12 volt. When I got it back, when I was using this, I was using a little baby CRT TV, hung off a standard definition set-top box that you could buy in Australia. It was a little tiny thing. All it did was SD TV, but you could watch digital channels. And back then, there was no discrepancy between the HDs and the SDs, because the SDs were duplicated on HD, so you could watch it anyway. What I found was, even after buying this thing, the CRT was better. What this video is about is the fact that at the time I looked at this thing, I bought it when I was on a very limited paycheck, because I was being funded by the government on Centrelink's Newstart, also known as the Dole in other countries. This was priced at a point below what one would consider at the time lay buying, but not high enough that you couldn't just spontaneously just buy it. you could go to the store, go, oh, that's cheap enough. I've got $500 or whatever it was at the time in my bank account. I could spring 250, 300 on this. Still got $200 left for the next fortnight. Take it home. And before buyer's remorse sets in, you think you're doing well until you plug it in. It's like, holy crap, I just wasted some money. This thing is basically, this is before the likes of your Afterpays and all that sort of stupid payday next plan things, but also at the same time where what existed were payday loans. Payday loans were, they're still a thing at the moment. Cash Converters made a schmotzer on it, and a few other places. The concept is, hey, I need, let's say, for instance, throw some random numbers up. Say your dollar is $500 a fortnight. And you go to the payday loan center and say, hey, I need $3.95 or whatever. That's fine. They'll chuck it at you. All of a sudden, hey, this fortnight's payday was $900. Hey, that's fine. But now you've got to pay off $25 a fortnight or $30 or whatever it was. And by the time you paid it off, you would have paid 3 times the amount that you borrowed for the sake of having that little bit of extra money for that short amount of time. What sucks about that is that the stuff that you usually purchase at that point, by the time you paid it off at 3 times the value, was worthless. Same as this stupid television. I've never myself used a payday loan service. Never borrowed money at that point while I was on the dole, but I did happen to spend money on things that I, eventually regretted paying for, mostly because I never used what it was I yearned for, because by the time I could use it, I couldn't afford things for it, or it just, the shine wore off it. Another example was a Sony Blu-ray player. One of the first generations that they had. Again, while I was on Centrelink payments, I wanted it. I wanted it. I went in, looked at it, went, ooh, that's pretty cool. Walked out, come back in, it was on special. Walked back out, come back in, convinced myself I needed it, bought it, got it home. The thing was so slow to load up Blu-rays because it was so limited on memory. I only used it a few times. I've still got it. It's downstairs. It's probably died from lack of use by now. But that was one of these devices that I spent money I should have spent on other things because I wanted it. But it ended up not being used because I convinced myself I wanted it, but I really didn't need it. And I guess this is kind of the point of this stupid video. While you may look at something and go, shit, I need that right now. It's going to improve my life so much. I'm going to get enjoyment out of it. The enjoyment I'll get out of it will exceed what it's about to cost me. Turns out, no. In a lot of cases, it doesn't. It doesn't fulfill you. What you're better off doing is, if you have the option, if the device is expensive enough and you feel you want it, instead of going the likes of your Afterpays, Zip Pays or whatever, look at lay-by. Lay-by, unfortunately, has fallen by the wayside these days. The last time I used one was... actually, that's a lie. Pardon me. I've used lay-by 3 times. Each time was for a piece of video equipment. Or video audio equipment. One was in the very late 90s. It was for a Sony mini system. So I paid that. It took me ages to pay it out, but I paid it out. And, I could make small payments instead of impacting what I would pay on buying food and that sort of thing. So I never got hungry. One of the other ones was a Panasonic NV F70 VHS player, a video recorder. I lay-byed until I could pay it off, and then it was mine. I rocked up, I took it home, and off it goes. That one I got because it was the first time I ever heard or had access to stereo broadcast television. Even if you ran your Optus cable television box back through it, you would get stereo TV. The other one was a rear projection television. That television served us really well for about 5 or 6 years. Let me just put this down really quickly so I can finish off what I'm about to do. Can't show for YouTube reasons. Yeah, that was a Hitachi 1080i CRT rear projection television. I lay-byed. I wanted it, but I didn't want to shell out money that would stop me eating. Lay-by, I think, is a concept that needs to come back. It's a bitch for retailers because they have to provide space to store the items that they're lay-buying. When, if they take the likes of Afterpays and that sort of thing, they don't have to store it. It's not their problem to care about payments. It's someone else's, whether it's EasyPay, Hum, which used to be... holy crap, we used to use them. It was... yeah, not Afterpay. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it. But yeah, your EasyPays and that sort of thing. Where it was... It's someone else's problem to worry about chasing payments. But you've got the issue with your Afterpays and your ZipPays and all that sort of thing, where you end up with people buying stuff, thinking they... Not thinking... Buying stuff knowing they can, pay it later. Thinking that buying that will make them happier or will fulfill some sort of aspect of their being or happening that'll make it better. Only for their 4 or 6 or 8 payments if they're not late. To realise they really didn't need it. But for the next 4, 6 or 8 weeks later, they're now short that difference of money. Which would normally be used to get food for kids, fuel in the car and everything else. This stupid television taught me. Stop buying shit you don't really, really, really need. If you do need it, get it. But in a lot of cases, you don't. And this stupid little crap television, which is absolutely bloody useless for anything else except as a random clapped out display that I chuck on my table. Today I dragged out and chucked on my table because I'm dealing with a little computer and I don't want to be anywhere else. Okay. It's okay for that, but it's still shit at it because it doesn't fill the screen and I can't get to the other side of the thing and it's useless. And I only keep it around because I paid good money for it that I really, really shouldn't have. Anyway, that's just me. That's just a random rant. Don't buy stuff you don't need, especially if it means you're going to be paying it off for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks later, and something else is going to get left behind. Have a good one, Matt.